Eloise in Oxonia, a creative podcast by the Oxford Writers' House. Follow English student Eloise Weaver as she moves through the city of Oxford, encountering stories, past and present. Eloise's adventures are fantasy, but the authors, people and ideas she encounters are as real as you and I.
Since that night at the portal, I haven't been able to catch my breath. It's been non-stop reading, writing and registering. Library cards, laundry lists, laundry cards, library lists, bibliographies and battles melt the hours away. I've found that Oxonia is a place of underground tunnels and unbelievable rituals. This morning, Quincy told me that my college holds a time ceremony every Michaelmas, the night the clocks go back. Everyone meets in the quad at 2 a.m, then walks backwards in a circle round the sundial for 1 hour, drinking port in full academic dress. They finish at 2 a.m, exactly when they started. It's very necessary, he told me with a straight face. It counteracts the temporal vortex. How else would we balance in the space-time continuum? It's next week. You should join. Otherwise, he added in mock horror, things might actually change here, and we can't have that. Tessa told me the college next door races tortoises in Trinity term. Now that one I really can't bring myself to believe. Tessa and I have been spending a lot of time together, but I've been ignoring half of what she tells me. When Byron said truth is stranger than fiction, he must have had this place in mind. So far, it's been hard to tell reality from fantasy. Today is my first tutorial with Professor Meade, and I'm already late. Fob, check. Phone, check. Pen, check. Paper, check. Scarf, check. Book bag, check. Bicycle lock, check. No time for anything else. I'm off. There's only one thing to do when you're running out of time. Run out in front of it.
To-do list. Sharpen all pencils, check offside rear tyre pressure, defrag hard drive, consider life and times of Donald Campbell CBE, shampoo billiard room carpet, learn one new word per day, make circumnavigation of Coniston Water by foot, visit Coniston Cemetery to pay respects, achieve grade 5 piano by Easter, go to fancy dress party as Donald Campbell complete with crash helmet and life jacket, draft pro forma apology letter during meditation session, check world ranking, skim duckweed from ornamental pond, make fewer apple-to-apple comparisons, consider father's achievements only as barriers to be broken, dredge Coniston Water for sections of wreckage/macabre souvenirs, lobby service provider to unbundle local loop network, remove all invasive species from British countryside, build 1 to 25 scale model of Bluebird K7 from toothpicks and spent matches, compare own personality with traits of those less successful but more popular, eat brackets optional, breathe brackets optional, petition for high-speed fibre optic broadband to this postcode, order by express delivery DVD copy of Across the Lake, starring Anthony Hopkins as Speed King Donald Campbell, gain a pecuniary advantage, initiate painstaking reconstruction of Donald Campbell's final seconds using archive film footage and forensic material not previously released into public domain, polyfiller all-surface cracking to Bonneville Salt Flats, Utah, levitate, develop up to 4,500 pounds force of thrust, carry on regardless despite suspected skull fracture, attempt return run before allowing backwash ripples to completely subside, open her up, subscribe to a convenient one-a-day formulation of omega oil capsules for a balanced and healthy diet, reserve full throttle for performance over measured mile, relocate to dynamic urban hub, eat standing up to avoid time-consuming table manners and other non-essential mealtime rituals, remain mindful of engine cutout caused by fuel starvation, exceed upper limits, make extensive observations during timeless moments of somersaulting prior to impact, disintegrate.
On my bicycle, the colleges flashed past. I don't even know all their names yet. New College, Old College, St George's, Newton's. Some of those aren't exactly right, but I'll learn them later. Oh no, there's a cricket pitch where I thought the college was. Cycling on. I arrive only 5 minutes late. Maybe she won't notice? I knock lightly on the heavy door of Professor Meade's office. I can hear muffled voices inside. Another tutorial is ending. "One moment, please," a sharp voice shouts from behind the door. I wait in the foyer with dusty, salmon-coloured carpets and horticulture prints. Probably 19th century. Probably original. My tutorial partner arrives. "Hello," I say. "Hello," he says. "I'm Eloise," I offer. "Francis," he murmurs. Almost under his breath. He doesn't look at me. His clothes smell of mould. He has mouse-brown hair and looks fragile and underslept. We both look at the wall and say nothing. My hands are clammy. Then the door swings open. 2 students our age walk out with heads down. They say nothing to us. Leaden weight sinks in my belly. The room is suffocatingly quiet. Professor Meade's study is dimly lit. The walls are lined with heavy, ancient books. Outside, rain falls in a steady drizzle. Grey light seeps through the small window and casts long shadows over the floor. Professor Meade looks at us with her piercing black eyes. She gestures to a sunken couch in front of her. She glowers down at us like a statue. "Eloise," Professor Meade begins, "read your essay." Her voice is as precise as a blade. No welcome, no hello, just a curt demand, direct as a bullet. I read my essay. When I finish, she pounces. "How do you perceive the interplay between realism and idealism in the Divine Comedy?" I shift and try to steady my nerves. "I think Dante balances both," I begin, stuttering. "His depiction of hell and purgatory is rooted in the realism of his time. The fears, the moral concerns." Professor Meade interrupts, her tone cold, almost indifferent. "Rooted? Are you suggesting Dante merely reflects his surroundings? Is there nothing more profound in his work?" I feel a prickling at the back of my neck and look at Francis, who seems to be suddenly engrossed by a metal paperweight on Professor Meade's desk. "No, I mean, yes, there is more, obviously. The idealism in the poem, Dante's pursuit of paradise, of divine love and truth, transcends the harsh realities he depicts. It's not just about the world as it is, but about how it could be." Professor Meade leans back in her chair, her expression inscrutable. "Transcends, yes. But does it transcend, or does it escape?" Her words hang in the air, challenging, almost daring me. "It doesn't escape," I say, feeling my confidence waver under the relentless scrutiny. "Maybe I could say that his idealism aspires to... I start again. I think Dante uses idealism to reach for something higher, something beyond the suffering and imperfection of the world." Professor Meade raises an eyebrow, her fingers lightly tapping on the leather armrest. "Aspires? That's a loaded term, isn't it? And what do you think of such aspirations, Eloise? Are they not merely a distraction from reality? You sound to me like somebody who has never had her heart broken." I am being led into a trap. For a moment, Professor Meade is silent, her eyes never leaving mine. The rain outside grows louder, filling the room with its persistent hammering. Finally, she speaks, her voice softer but no less penetrating. "And do you think Dante believed in that something more? Or was it merely a convenient fiction, a way to cope with the realities of his life?" I swallow hard. I think he saw the ideal as a goal, a destination, even if it was beyond his reach. Professor Meade's gaze softens just a fraction, and she gives a small, almost imperceptible nod. "Perhaps. But remember, Eloise, that the pursuit of ideals and places beyond time can be dangerous." I hear a ringing in my ears. After an eternity, it's Francis's turn. I jot down hasty, illegible notes. My mind wrestles with the implications of her harsh comments. There is something unnerving about her. She creates questions from questions. I leave feeling a strange mixture of unease and exhilaration. Francis and I say goodbye. I skip lunch and go straight to the library. It's getting cold now. The Gothic arches of the upper library spiral above my head. I stare at a blank page. The essay on Dante's Inferno should be half written by now. It's not. 10 minutes pass. First things first. Some secondary materials are in order. I find the librarian at a corner desk. She jumps when I speak to her, as if being woken up from deep sleep, and collects the volumes I requested. Back at my desk, rain slashes the darkened windows. 900 years of blessings and curses whisper through the walls. I can almost see monks chaining books to desks to obstruct sticky-fingered students. I hear their medieval incantations, muttering the Latin phrases I repeated at matriculation, cursing thieves and keeping all spellbound books safe on shelves. New readers give a Latin oath, pledging not to deface the Bodleian's paper treasures. I don't remember pledging. It's possible I accidentally sold my own soul to this place. I rest my head on my arms, close my eyes, and picture the Inferno. So many layers deep, so many rings down. Like this library. There are more books underground in tunnels than what I can see. It's an iceberg. But if there's more below than above, have they considered a flood? The rain roars outside. Sir Francis Bacon said this library is an ark to save learning from deluge. To all who enter here, I'd advise bringing a ball of red yarn, just to help find your way out again. I hear some people never leave. If Milton was right that a book is a living thing, how many lost souls sleep below me now? Hundreds of thousands, I've been told. I wonder how the forsaken ones feel down there, trapped, alone and forgotten. The Bodleian reserves a physical copy of every published work in England, but certain books are sometimes digitised by being cracked down the middle to be scanned and uploaded, page by page. Are their spirits saved, even as their spines split, I wonder? What a brutal way to enter the cloud. This is all nonsense. I'm procrastinating. Still blank. I look upward for inspiration. The ceiling is an expanse of crests, arranged neatly in a chessboard. If I squint, they look a little like cosmic playing cards. Wait. Playing cards? Jax's black notebook! It's been in my book bag this whole time! I had meant to give it back, but no one ever knows where he is. I know I shouldn't open it. I should just give it back. I won't open it. I'll give it back. I open it. It's blank. How fitting. Suddenly, 2 folded sheets of paper slip out. One is Jax's class schedule for the upcoming term, gold. The other is a passage from a poem, followed by tiny stamped insignia. I can just make out a quill.
His grimy fingers slowly trace each odd, repellent sign. In a dull fear to lose the place, his voice, with listless whine, draws through the scheduled hour the syllables of power.
A quick search reveals The Wizard's Pupil is a poem by Dorothy L. Sayers. Soon I've procured a fresh stack of books by Dorothy L. Sayers. Not very popular, says the librarian. It looks like this one hasn't been pulled up in about 50 years. I wonder who Dorothy L. Sayers was.
Dorothy Sayers was a writer, an extraordinary writer. She was born at the end of the 19th century and she died at the end of the 1950s. And in the meantime, she produced a dazzling array of novels, plays, and essays and treatises. She's probably most famous for her detective fiction, and she's one of the queens of crime, which is a title given to a loose group of female writers, including Agatha Christie and Ngaio Marsh and Marjorie Allingham.
So the Detection Club was a group of authors it was founded in 1930. They were all writing detective fiction, in the context of what is often referred to as the golden age of detective fiction. And this was a group of people who met and talked about the unique challenges of their work. They did some kind of fun collaborations. There's one where, one of them writes the premise, and then somebody else has to write the next chapter, and there has to be a plausible solution at every stage to the mystery, even though nobody knows what the previous author thought, what the solution would be. Sayers is credited with writing the rules of the club, and I've actually got written down here the oath, which is one version of her rules of the club. So she says, "Do you promise that your detectives shall well and truly detect the crimes presented to them, using those wits which it may please you to bestow upon them, and not placing reliance on nor making use of divine revelation, feminine intuition, mumbo-jumbo, jiggery-pokery, coincidence, or act of God?" And there's sort of longer versions of that as well, but basically I think you can see Sayers' interest in fairness and also in the intellectual puzzle dimensions of the genre.
Her life was that of a well-educated middle-class woman of the early 20th century. She was the daughter of a clergyman. She attended university. She worked for periods in teaching and publishing and advertising. She was rather unhappily married, and she had a child outside wedlock.
So she was well educated, and she was able to attend Somerville College at Oxford University, although that education always came kind of hedged around with some limits to her as a woman. So, for example, when she was at Oxford, she was able to take classes. Of course, she was able to sit for examinations and get results from those examinations, but she was not, as a woman, she was not eligible for an Oxford degree. So instead, she and her friends all got this kind of it's sort of a funny certificate. It's sort of a tragic certificate that says this person has undertaken all of the requirements. They fulfilled all the requirements that would have entitled them to a degree if they weren't a woman.
From the accounts we have, including her own letters, she seems to have absolutely loved it. Collegiate life really suited her. She was always having late night debates about art and ethics over cups of coffee, or rushing off to rehearsals of the Bach choir, or writing skits for the college drama group. Her taste apparently sometimes ran to the flamboyant around college. I'm sure there's a story that she came into hall one morning for breakfast with enormous earrings in the shape of cages with little parrots in them. And there's another story that she was fond of striding about the quadrangles with a cigar between her teeth. And perhaps some of these stories are exaggerated by memory or the legend that grew up around Sayers, but they do testify to the impact which her character had on people.
I think history, if we can talk about history as a singular thing, I think history has found it a little difficult to characterize Dorothy L. Sayers, because after she kind of earned enough money to be comfortable, she turned to other things. She stopped writing about Lord Peter Wimsey, which really upset the fans of her detective fiction. She wrote all of this other kind of material, and I think that's made her difficult to characterize. Do you say she's a detective writer, or do you say she's an essayist or a theologian, or like what? And how is it that somebody could be so good at all of those things? And yeah, I think that upsets our notions of neat categorization. So maybe that's how history should remember her, as somebody who reminds us that actually people don't fit into those neat categories.
I open the Sayers book. There is a handwritten message above the table of contents. A defaced book! Someone disobeyed their defacement declaration. In graceful loops, the message reads, "My dear reader, a secret between friends. The falcon hunts only at dawn." The same stamped quill insignia follows the message. I slap my book card down in front of the librarian, check the book out, and slip it into my book bag alongside Jax's notebook. Was he trying to tell me something? Did he drop his notebook on purpose? Trying to look calm, I descend the stairs and sneak back through the entrance into the old school's quadrangle. When I'm far enough away, I run. I imagine the iceberg of text still expanding in every direction beneath my feet, despite the growing distance. Outside the English faculty library, I find myself holding Jax's schedule in front of me like a treasure map. If I'm right, Jax is inside attending a lecture on the astrology of John Dee. It ends in 5 minutes. I wait under an awning. A few leaves flitter to the ground under the force of icy rain. The rain passes. Jax emerges from the shadows of the faculty building wearing a red checkered cable knit jumper, sleeves rolled up. He is deep in thought. A ray of sunshine falls on the cathedral in the distance. I suddenly realise Professor Meade is right. I have never had my heart broken. Not yet, anyway.
Episode 4 of Eloise in Oxonia was written by Anne Maduzia and Dr. April Power and produced by Sid Walter. The episode features original readings by Esme Rhodes and Judith Bunting. Cameron Power reads the work of Dorothy L. Sawyers. Dr. Jem Bloomfield and Professor Mo Moulton give their expertise on the life and works of Dorothy L. Sawyers. Simon Armitage reads his own original poetry. Special thanks go to the National Poetry Archive for their expert support.